Welcome back guys to another video where we're gonna be ranking the Jinchuriki from Naruto from weakest to strongest. Now before we begin, there's a few things I have to go over first. Kurama makes it apparent that a Bijuu's power correlates to the number of tails it has. Now I won't be using this as a basis for determining the ranking here, primarily because the power of a Jinchuriki depends on both the tailed beast and the Jinchuriki host they're sealed in. I'm also not gonna include the 10-tailed Jinchuriki since that's a whole other game. Another thing I gotta mention is that some of these Jinchuriki are borderline background characters, only making an appearance as part of Toby's 6 Paths of Pain. So I might resort to using some anime filler feeds and databook statements for characters that lack presence in the manga, since the anime filler has been deemed acceptable as additional content for obscure characters. Without further ado, let's begin, shall we? Now at number 10 we have Fu, the 7-tailed Jinchuriki. We don't really see much of her in the manga, and in the anime she makes a brief appearance in the new Chunin exams arc. She is the most out of the Jinchuriki lacking in feats, but let's go over what we are given. As part of Obito's 6 paths, she delivers the least amount of damage to Naruto and B. She's able to exhale a sparkling substance that's meant to blind her opponents to leave them vulnerable to attacks. However, Naruto is able to sense the Jinchuriki's intent, and B's shades can protect his vision, so her strategy isn't effective on either. In her V2 state, she's able to land a bite on KCM Naruto, which doesn't seem to damage him much, and overall seemed like one of the more underwhelming paths. Though she could sprout wings in her partial transformation, so I guess that's worth mentioning. Her feats in the anime filler aren't impressive either. She displays that she's well above Chunin with how she easily deals with some giant scorpion. However, that's not a very impressive feat. Even Neji in part 1 was implied to be above Chunin level, so it's not surprising that a Jinchuriki would be able to scale above that rank. She's also able to surround herself and her allies in some protective cocoon. But even then, the cocoon doesn't prevent the Bijuu extraction, and her and Gara are forced to wait inside for someone to come to their rescue. Number 9. Now Yugito Ni from the Hidden Cloud, she thinks she's powerful enough to take out 2 members of the Akatsuki by herself, though reality is a tad more cruel, and blow up the entire hideout they're in with one fireball attack from a lower form of Matatabi. Now she wasn't a perfect Jinchuriki, but she could give control over to the beast. She's also skilled with taijutsu due to her cat-like claws, and was able to crash with Naruto and B. She's able to release a mouse-shaped flaming hairball which splits into individual ablaze strings of hair that pursue their victims. It's hard to gauge her strength from the Hidan and Kakuzu fight, since it takes place mostly off-screen. She seems to have the upper hand in the beginning of the battle, but she's soundly defeated by the end, with neither Hidan nor Kakuzu looking too drained or fatigued from the battle, and neither makes a comment to imply that she was a challenging target. That, coupled with the fact that most of the other Jinchuriki have special abilities or Kekkei Genkai, makes it difficult for me to place Yugito any higher. Number 8. Han, the Jinchuriki of the 5 tails. Now I think that Han is the most obscure Jinchuriki. Shit, he doesn't even make an appearance in the anime filler, unlike many other Jinchuriki. He does have an entry in the databook where he's stated to have made his fame of the steam ninja resound through the whole shinobi world, and that the power of his speed in taijutsu is the best in the ninja world. Now that's quite some hype, though it's worth mentioning that it's a databook statement and probably should be taken with a grain of salt. Han possesses a Kekkei Genkai, the boil release, and he even has a furnace in the back of his armor to capitalize off of this ability. With this, Han can amplify his taijutsu quite a bit, where he's shown able to kick KCM Naruto in the face and send him flying into Killer Bee, launching the both of them across the battlefield. This alone scales him higher than the previous 2, When he's fully transformed into Kokuo, he's able to damage the Eight Tails by stabbing him with his horns, though it's worth mentioning that Gyuki was caught off guard and was able to counter him in the second attempt. Now, I can't rank him any higher due to how little screen time he gets, and the fact that his V2 state was easily countered by Kakashi's lightning cable. Plus, he's the only Jinchuriki whose capture we never see, not even in filler. Number 6, we have Utakata, the Jinchuriki of Saiken, the Six Tails. Now, it might sound like I'm highballing this guy. I mean, he wears a bathrobe and blows bubbles. How tough can he be? Well, Utakata gets an anime filler arc, unlike the previous entry, and in that filler arc we get to see him fight pain. You see, in his V2 state, he has the ability to turn his body into a corrosive substance with which he disposes of one of the animal path summons. He also manages to take down 2 paths, which is impressive considering Jiraiya was overwhelmed at having to fight only 3 paths and resorted to hiding and using his one-shot genjutsu. Utakata does get overwhelmed by Tendo Pain, however that's not a massive anti-feat considering we don't really see anyone overpower Tendo Pain until Naruto goes 6 Tails. That being said, he does get beaten pretty badly, with the Asura path nuking him at the end. In his transformed state as Saiken, he's able to excrete a corrosive substance and toxic gas from his mouth, which was able to severely burn the Eight Tails. Though it seems like Six Gates guy is able to deflect his hacks. Personally, I don't think he scales higher than Han or Yugito without the anime feats, but if you were generous to him and gave him the filler, then why not? Number 6, Roshi, the Four Tails Jinchuriki. Now the Four Tails was one of the more troubling Jinchuriki, and gave Naruto and B a tough time. Like Han, he possesses a Kekkei Genkai, the lava style, with which he could release molten lava rocks from his mouth and even cover his entire body in a lava cloak, which could be used offensively and defensively. He was able to burn Naruto without making physical contact with him. In his V2 state, he's able to minorly alter the terrain with lava, and when he transforms to Son Goku, he's able to lift the Eight Tails and swing him around, trapping KCM Naruto in his mouth. Now, he was soundly defeated by Kisame, but that's not a massive anti-feat. Kisame is the same guy that managed to overpower and defeat the Eight Tails. Kisame even remarks that Roshi gave him a tough time, stating that the corrosion-style jutsu of the Four Tails is nothing to laugh about. I think that alone scales him above the entries mentioned so far, but now we're getting to the top dogs of the Jinchuriki. Number 5, we have Gara, Shukaku's Jinchuriki. Now, since this is a Jinchuriki list, I'll only be listing feats of Gara as a Jinchuriki. He still has feats that surpass the previous entries. When introduced, Gara was presented as one of the most powerful characters, being called the Sand's ultimate defense, even when he was just a kid. He was presented as quite an unstable Jinchuriki, and his rampages as the Shukaku would be so detrimental to the village that his own father, the Kazekage, would send squads of assassins to take him out, all of which would fail. Gara was also a pivotal part of the joint sound and sand invasion of the leaf, and by the time Shippuden starts, he rose to the rank of Kazekage, which is a tribute to his strength. He also performs better against Deidara than the entire Sans military, proving once again why he's the ultimate defense. He's fast enough to latch on to and rip Deidara's arm off, and with his sand he's able to shield his village from the C3 bomb, which is one of Deidara's stronger bombs. Now, even though he loses, Gara does kinda push Deidara to his limit, with even Deidara himself admitting that he was much tougher than he had anticipated and resorting to dirty maneuvers such as attacking the village itself to catch Gara off guard. Number 4, we have Yagura, the 4th Mizukage, stated as one of the few to ever achieve full control over the tailed beasts, alongside Hashirama Senju, Madara Uchiha, and Killer Bee. Now, if being name dropped in the same sentence as Hashirama and Madara wasn't enough, let me go over some of his lore and feats. He was the reigning Mizukage during the Blood Mist era, And even Kisame remarks that Yagura could erase him at any time, and while this Kisame had just received Samehara, based on his later feats against Jinchuriki, I thought it was worth mentioning. As part of Tobi's 6 paths, he was one of the more impressive paths and displayed some troublesome jutsu. He was able to use the water mirror technique, which creates a doppelganger of his opponent to counter their attack. Both Naruto and B confirmed the doppelgangers of equal strength to the original. In his V2 state, he's able to use the Coral Palm on KCM Naruto, which restricts his mobility and leaves him vulnerable to Obito. KCM Naruto is also unable to break himself free from the corals formed, and Might Guy has to help him out. Yagura also has additional feats in anime filler, where he confronts an Akatsuki duo comprising of Itachi and Juzo. There, when he transforms into his V2 state, he's able to kill the latter and back the former into a corner, where Itachi is forced to use the Amaterasu, a Mangekyo ability that even forced Killer B to retreat. Confronting an Akatsuki duo and doing as well as he did is a terrific feat for Yagura. Now you might think I'm giving him too much credit, but considering this guy's the only other perfect Jinchuriki, and if we stack filler feats as well, it makes his placement on this list well deserved. Number 3. Killer B of the 8 Tails. And now we start getting to the most broken Jinchuriki. Now Killer B in his base is strong enough to fight Sasuke and his squad, almost killing him multiple times. This is the same Sasuke that was able to defeat Deidara and thought he was strong enough to fight Itachi. Yet B makes light work of him and his goons. Even when Sasuke uses the Amaterasu, B manages to escape, though it's worth mentioning that the Amaterasu was more than B could handle. With his V2 Lariat, he's able to rip Kisame's chest wide open, and the reason Kisame does as well as he does against B is because the Samehara keeps stealing B's chakra, giving Kisame the constant edge. He's able to react to the Yellow Flash, which the Raikage wasn't able to, and when he's in Naruto's consciousness, he's able to block a Bijou Bomb from the Nine Tails with his partial transformation. He's also not affected by Sasuke's Mangekyo Genjutsu due to the 8 Tails breaking him out of it, which is worth mentioning since the other perfect Jinchuriki was under Tobi's control for years. He was also able to fight alongside KCM Naruto against formidable opponents such as reanimated Itachi, Nagato, and Obito's 6 Jinchuriki. When he transforms into his 8 Tails state, he's able to use the 8 Tails Bijou Twister that flattened the forest and knocked out all the Jinchuriki. And with the sealing jutsu, he's able to seal them all away if they hadn't transformed into their V2 state by Obito. He's also able to take on multiple Bijou before getting overwhelmed, as taking on multiple Bijou is no easy task, unless you're Madara. He does get stomped by characters like Edo Nagato and White Mask Obito, however these characters are capable of overpowering KCM Naruto, so getting stomped by them is not such an anti-feat. He's also the one that taught Naruto how to harness the Nine Tails power, and he's clearly a cut above the rest of the Jinchuriki. Now, number 2, Minato Namikaze. The 4th Hokage, Minato, is the only entry here to have not been a Jinchuriki when he was alive. But using the Reaper Death to split the Nine Tails into 2 entities and sealing one half within himself, Minato was brought back as a Jinchuriki. You also shouldn't underestimate just how strong half of the Nine Tails is. Naruto's shown time and time that the Nine Tails eclipses the other tailed beasts, with his half being able to counter the power of 5-tailed beasts simultaneously. Now base Minato was already able to deal with the 8 tails backed by the future would-be Raikage and their platoon. So if you give him half of the 9 tails, you best believe he scales above B. He's able to perform better against the 10 tails than B anyways, and is the first Hokage to arrive to the battlefield, right after casually teleporting a Jubi Blast, the same attack that vaporized the allied shinobi force's headquarters. He was already KCM Naruto's speed when he was just a Jonin, so now he's arguably faster than he was in his Yellow Flash days. He's also able to manifest a QB avatar like Naruto, It's worth noting that he doesn't seem to be as proficient with the Nine Tails chakra as his son, and has a mental nerf for most of the war due to the revelation that the masked man that attacked the village so long ago was his own student, Obito. But his greater than Kage level rank, along with the Nine Tails, I feel justified in placing him here. And number 1, shocking no one, Naruto. Now this shouldn't come as a shock to anyone who's number 1, I mean just read the series title. The Nine Tails in Naruto's body was so strong that even slivers of its chakra were able to boost Kid Naruto to be able to fight high Jonin level opponents. Keep in mind that Naruto had a seal on the Nine Tails chakra, so he's had limited access to it. Naruto was able to overpower Tendo Pain with just 6 tails, the same Tendo Pain that was able to destroy the village and is able to break out of Chibaku Tensei with 8 tails. Now keep in mind that these are some of his lower showings, as after Naruto goes to Turtle Island and learns how to harness the Nine Tails chakra, he's become beyond anyone's league. He's able to create so many clones that he can fight alongside every division and pretty much solo the war. Even as a clone, he's able to defeat multiple high Kage level opponents across multiple war frontiers. He defeats both the 3rd Raikage and 2nd Tsuchikage, can create extendable chakra arms with the Kyuubi chakra, has one of his clones create 1,000 clones of its own, can fend off 5-tailed beasts with the Nine Tails cooperation, forcing Obito to seal them back into the Ghetto Mazo, and has so much chakra that he's able to share it with hundreds, if not thousands of shinobi, where every person that receives this chakra has their stats amplified by 3-fold. Hashirama even compares their combined chakra to his own, and you know how much of a beast Hashirama is. Naruto also performs the best against Yugito, the same guy that was having no problem soloing the 4 Hokage. Now, I'm not saying that KCM2 Naruto is stronger than Yugito, but for him to perform better against him than the 4 Hokage did, speaks miles about his powers. It's also worth mentioning that when Madara defeats him, he does so by extracting the tailed beast from within him, not by stabbing him per se. On top of all of that, what makes Naruto number 1 is that he's kind of in a way the Jinchuriki of all the tailed beasts, as he possesses a portion of every tailed beast's chakra. He's even compared to the Sage of the Six Paths in how he's united all the tailed beasts, as the sage predicted himself. Other Jinchuriki worth mentioning are Bunpoki of the 1-tailed, Rin for the 3 tails, Blue Bee for the 8 tails, and Kushina and Mito Uzumaki for the 9 tails. None of these characters have combat showings with their tailed beasts though. And this is it for today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. Hope you have an amazing day. Bye!